All right, we are going again. Welcome, everybody. I want to thank you. This is call 3 for the Creative Finance for Realtors. Really, this call is all about you. It really is. So whatever questions you have, we're going to break those down. I'm going to teach a little bit. I'll pause. We'll do Q&A. I'll teach a little bit more. We'll pause. We'll do some Q&A. The only request I have is that be concise in your question. Have an actual question versus just kind of monologuing or, storytelling and whatnot. A real concise question that can benefit you as well as everybody involved. And then also too, just, if you have 3 or 4 or 5 questions, throw out 1 or 2, we'll interact, then allow for somebody else. And then maybe we'll come back and do 2 or 3 more, 2 more, 1 more with you. Then we'll open it up to other people. The idea is not to turn it into a one-on-one coaching call. So, because that's not what this is. So, and I only say that out of respect. Nobody's done that here, by the way, but I've had that on other calls where people literally try to hijack the call, and turn it into a one-on-one coaching call. So, also, just a little PSA announcement. So today is April the 20th. Today we are going to talk about contracts. We're going to do lots of Q&A. I'm going to do a quick overview with everybody here. So we'll do a quick overview, kind of what we've covered in the first couple of calls. I am working on the recordings. I'm going to make those available to you all for free, absolutely free. I am going to put the recordings into some format. I just don't have the format to where everybody can access them. They're there. It's free, and it, a player versus I'm not going to put them out on YouTube or anything like that. So this is just for you, for those of you that attended. So that's coming. I'm working on that. I hope I'll have that worked out by the weekend, by next week. Now, today's call, Thursday, April the 20th. Our next call, our 4th call will be, we're going to take next week off. And our next call will be Thursday, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. It'll be on May the 4th, Thursday, May the 4th will be our next call. So just FYI. Also, if you have questions, some of you have sent me, like Casey, you sent me a very long DM on Instagram. I don't look at Instagram. If it's something I can give you a little thumbs up, thank you. Thanks for reposting, sharing my story, sharing my reels, things like that. But on Instagram, I'm on Instagram maybe 5 to 8 minutes a day. And I'm literally just more so checking the comments on my post, checking the deleting all the spam and all the stuff out of my DMs. And then I'm usually replying back to people, hey, send me an email. Guess where you send an email? ty@tylg.com, ty@tylg.com. If you have deals, you have questions, whatever, that's where we'll do it. So with that said, welcome to the call, everybody. Great to see everyone here. Any questions from the last 2 or 3 weeks? From the last 2 weeks? Anyone? Either we froze or no questions. Okay, I love it. I love it. I'm going to get right into the content. So stand by. Stand by. We will get right into the content. I'm going to go to my screen share. Welcome to the call, Adam, my partner, Adam. Welcome, Aaron. Welcome, Aaronina. Welcome, Hillary. Good to see you, Hillary. Jonas, good to see you, brother. Love it. We got a great room here. Patrick Kim from Fresno, California. I love it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So stand by here. I did have some questions in the chat. Let me just take a look here. Yeah, if you're at work and you can't turn your camera on, I appreciate you being here to listen. I will turn the chat on and I will look at the chat when I go to Q&A. There is a question there from Jeffrey. I'll come back when I do some Q&A. He's asking about pitching a listing opportunity, on creative, things like that, how to deal with that. I'll talk about that more. But for now, I am going to The chat is officially disabled. So let me get right into the content. Maybe. I'm going to go to my slides. I use slides not because I'm dependent on them, but they'll just kind of help me, stay on track. And then also what I want to do with the slides here is I want to do a refresher. I know some of you, this is your first time on. So I'm going to just do a quick little overview of what we've covered so far. So can you see my screen, Marvin? Can you see my screen, Casey? Yes, thumbs up, head nod. Thank you for that. So what we talked about, and again, this call is really developed for realtors, creative finance for realtors. And what I talked about was the realtor filter. So what is the realtor filter? It's about a mindset. Now, a lot of times for realtors, we get so locked into working for buyers, working for sellers, that we forget there's other kinds of opportunities. Or, the idea that, I hope all of you got into the business, became a realtor, but a part of that journey for you was also that, hey, I also want to create some wealth. I'd like to buy some rental properties. I'd like to buy a few deals here and there as well. And also, pick up and build a small, medium, or large portfolio. And all of you should do that. Now, also the realtor filter, what does that mean? When I have the big red X through it, why am I saying a big red? It's not against realtors. It's against the realtor filter, which is, I know a lot of times for some of you, nod your head yes if you've had this, where you've talked to realtors and they're like, you can't do that. You can't wholesale. That's illegal. You can't do creative financing or subject to or seller financing. It's illegal. You can't do that. Realtors, the reason why is because they're locked in. They've got their realtor filter on so tight that they can't see the opportunities. And so what I want to do for you is, you were all here. You stepped up. You're courageous. You're bold. You're saying, you know what? I want to see beyond, the matrix, right? The red pill and the blue pill. For some of you might be Matrix fans, right? Some people, we want to see, oh, maybe there's a whole different world out there, creative finance, more opportunities. And other people want to say, no, I want to be a realtor for the rest of my life and, work on my Zillow leads and whatever. So that's okay too. But I would encourage you, step number one is really to take off the realtor filter. Let's take off the realtor filter. So let's talk about that. It all goes back to mindset, and a mindset starts with having an open mind for opportunities, an open mind to learn new things, an open mind to say, oh, maybe there's more out there. Okay. So that's a part of it. Now, creative financing, what is it? Seller financing, subject to financing, and hybrid financing. If you have questions on it, we'll open that up later. Something I talked about, something I think you all, whether you do any creative financing or not, you should all pay attention to this slide. The best listing leads, the best seller leads in 2023 are pre-foreclosures, absentee owners, and probate. Okay. Take a screenshot, pull out your phone, take a shot of this. These are the three best categories. Whether you're doing direct mail, if you're cold calling, you're doing some text messaging, all of that. Now, of course, make sure you're compliant with any of those things. But these are the best lead sources. These are the best sellers in 2023, in my humble opinion. Also, I just want to say, for everybody out there, we've got 30 plus people on here. For everybody out here, one of my just absolute rules for anything I do, number one, you are responsible for yourself. So there's no way in a 4 or 5 hour course, free course, over 4 or 5 hours, am I going to teach you every legal nook and cranny, especially if you're in California, outside of California, if you're a licensed agent or broker, your company policies, your MLS, the Board of Realtor rules locally in your market. You need to be responsible and do the research and go out there and be responsible for yourself. That's rule number one. The things I'm sharing here are my opinion. These are what I've done over the last 30 years. These are opportunities in my opinion. But again, you need to go out there and figure it out for yourself. So make sure, number one, anything I share here or suggest, you need to make sure that it's right for you. Talk to your brokers, talk to your, you need to go do your own research in your local rules. rent control. I know there's lots of rent control in California, different municipalities, things that I'm talking about here. You're legally responsible for you. These are just ideas and things I'm working on. You need to make sure you're responsible for you. Number two is I'm going to just throw out a lot of different ideas and suggestions and things I do. If they work for you, try them on like a coat or like a t-shirt, right? I've got a t-shirt on. It's nice today. Try it on like a piece of clothing. Try it on. If it doesn't fit, throw it out. If you don't like what I'm talking about, or if it's something that's not a good fit for you, be okay with throwing it out. Are you guys good on that? Thumbs up. Allergy season here in Northern California. I love it. Thank you for the thumbs up. Let's continue. Pre-foreclosures, absentee owners, probates. I think there's, those are the best seller leads for me. So I would say take a look at those if it's something you're going to look into. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, what to say, how to say it, we can expand on that today. When you're talking to sellers, how do you present this? How do you actually, if you're talking to an agent, how do you present this? If you're an agent trying to educate another agent on this, how do you approach this? What do you say? How do you say it? How do you say it directly to seller? What to say and how to say it? We talked about that a little bit last week. We'll go in more in depth. Also, safeguarding your deals. What could go wrong, and then what happens if something goes wrong. That's going to be the next call, the first week of May. We'll go that'll be more open Q&A, not a lot of PowerPoint, not a lot of presentation, if you will. But we'll just kind of wrap it all up, and I'll make sure to give you guys the tools so you can safeguard your deals. Is this right for the seller? Is this right for you? Making sure that you're very thorough when you're explaining this, as well as that all your documents, all your disclosures, all your acknowledgments are in order. So structuring the paperwork, that's what we're going to do today. Structuring the mechanics, the paperwork, making sure you have the proper, contracts and such. We're going to spend a lot of time there. And that's what the theme of today is. That was last week. And we talked about subject to, hybrid, seller finance, wraparound mortgages, all-inclusive deed of trust, lease options, novations. You can go back to the second recording. You'll all get recordings of this. You'll go back to the recording, go to the second recording, and you'll all get the recordings on this. I spent a lot of time here. I won't today. TOP. That really goes back to kind of what to say, taking over payments. That's what's subject to. The most simple way to explain TOP is taking over payments. And then I use the metaphor of swap a lease. What I love about swap a lease, I talked about last week. This is on the recording from the second call. Swap a lease is a website where, and I love this, is I actually did go to swap a lease and I leased a Mercedes. But rather than go out and go to a Mercedes dealer, by the way, respectfully, some of you, if you have your mics on, we are getting a little bit of background noise. Everybody's muted now, but for some reason, just be sure to be mindful of your microphones and if you're muted or not. Everybody's muted now, so thank you. Swap a lease. When this website came out, it was super dope. Right now, not so much. It's just kind of an auto market. It's like every other website, in my opinion. But one of the things that was super dope about it that I really like, something that was really cool, was that, going back to this whole metaphor of you want out, I want in. Well, the beauty is I went and leased a Mercedes, a convertible hardtop Mercedes, but rather than lease it and go to a dealer or go out and buy a car for $130,000 and all the fees and taxes, I found somebody on Swap a Lease. He had done all this customization to this beautiful car. I went in, I gave him no money down. I gave him $0. And all I did was take over the payments on his lease. And it was like, I'm making the numbers up. It's off of memory, off my recollection. It was like $1,200 or $1,300 a month. And I took over the remaining 13, 14, 15 months of lease payments. And it was awesome. And I love it. Well, that's kind of like how subject to financing works, is we're basically taking over the payments. Sometimes we're getting, sometimes no money down. Sometimes we're giving the seller a small down payment, but then we're taking over the existing mortgage, and we can open that up. We can talk more about that, later when I open up for Q&A. Now, let me do this here. Everybody with me so far? That was the recap. I wanted to let everybody get in and lock in. So if you're with me, I know some of you, most of you have your cameras off. All good. Appreciate it. No worries if you're at work or busy background, all good. But if you have the ability and you're sitting in at home and you're really like locked in on this, turn your camera on. That way I can see you. I can see your, I can see when, believe it or not, I even facial recognition when I'm speaking live. I'll say something live to an audience, and I'll see people's kind of like face, like, huh? What? And I'll know, hey, go back to that. Explain that a little more. Right. So that helps me. So I like the interaction. If you guys have the ability to have your cameras on, dope. If not, don't worry about it. So let me get into today's topic. Today, we're going to talk about contracts. And this is a big deal because, the contracts are a big deal. And by the way, all of you have these contracts. If you're a realtor, you all have these contracts at your fingertips. You all have them there. There's no rocket science to this. There's no special AI, super woo-woo magic or anything magical about. It's all there. It's all within your fingertips already. If you're a realtor, you all have this. But I will give you a couple of extra resources, some other tools besides car forms and things like that. But let's get right into it. So can you see my screen? Can you see I'm in my Google Drive? Thumbs up. Yep. Okay, sweet. Thank you for that. That helps me. I'm going to go actually because somebody sent me a contract this week. And so I'm going to start there. This is an RPA from CAR, California Association of Realtors. I'm licensed in California. So this is a CAR form. CAR form starts off with a agency disclosure. Then it has other disclosures. It has the fair housing advisory. And then it has, possible representation of one or more buyers, wire fraud advisory. And then finally, page 7, I say that jokingly, right? But finally, page 7, we're at the actual purchase agreement. This is the most recent purchase agreement. Okay. Now, this is an arbitrary. This is not a real deal. I just put this together to show you guys just an example of, okay, what would a seller finance offer look like? Okay. If I were writing a deal with another broker, it was listed on market or even off market, and it was another broker, this is the way I would do it. $300,000 sales price, initial deposit, $10,000 earnest money, total purchase price, $300,000. And then not a lot there. A lot of, I'm not asking for home warranties. In this case, in all cases, when I'm buying a property, this would all be checked buyer. I'm going to pay my own escrow, title, transfer taxes, and sometimes the seller pays transfer taxes, but a lot of times I'm trying to make it easy for a seller. I'm trying to make it really easy for a seller. And what do I mean by that? In order for me to position my offer as a best offer, I like to position it as a net offer to the seller. Meaning, in almost all cases when I'm buying, I'm paying transfer taxes, I'm paying any kind of document prep, I'm paying escrow, title insurance, I'm paying all of that stuff. Why? Because it's simple for the mind of the seller. Thumbs up if you get what I'm saying. I want the offer to have simplistic. Now, also, in that same vein, if I'm paying escrow, title insurance, transfer taxes, city transfer, county transfer, the local, compliance, the local city extra fee thing that they have there. If I'm paying all those little nooks and crannies, I'm also probably expecting something in return. Would you guys agree with that? Maybe it's a little bit of a discount. Maybe it's a lot of discount, and or I'm using that as a lever to maybe, again, make it easy and simple for them to say yes to my seller financing, subject to whatever the case may be. Thumbs up if you guys get the mindset on this. Okay. All right. Traditionally, by the way, sellers almost always in most markets pay all transfer taxes. They're also probably going to pay 50-50 on escrow. They're going to have some of their side. They might pay title insurance in some markets. Most markets that I've seen, buyers usually pay for the title insurance because title insurance benefits the buyer. But those are all negotiable things. I'm not asking for home warranties, although you could. I'm not asking for a lot, right? I'm asking for nothing. And even if I thought, well, gosh, I need a home warranty, I'd probably just pay that myself, right? So I'm trying to make it easy. And this is a key mindset point, but it also, I want to help you guys like understand this. What we're providing, whether you're the buyer or you're the broker helping a buyer put together a creative finance deal, what we're really focused on, what we're delivering to a seller is ease and convenience. And in exchange for ease and convenience, we're getting benefits, right? The seller's financing the deal. Maybe they're willing to not take their equity initially. Maybe they're willing to wait 3 to 5 to 7 years when we can refinance the property. And or maybe they're willing to take installments. And that's a critical word if you're taking notes, installments on their equity. Okay. An installment sale, taking installments, seller financing or a seller carryback, they would be taking back installments on their equity. So that's the benefit to us, right? Instead of us having to go out and get a new loan at 6 or 7 or 8%, the seller's willing to carry back, and maybe we're able to even minimalize and maybe get those payments even more attractive for us as an investor for better cash flow. Thumbs up if you're with me on this. So I'm pausing and I'm talking to you now because I want you to understand the mindset of this. Because 80% of all of this is mindset. Maybe 90%. I don't really know. But a big portion of this is mindset. If you're not on board with mindset, the mechanics will never matter. And today is really about mechanics. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Let's continue. Now, I don't have a lot of markings on this contract. In a lot of cases, we would, we might say inspections, physical inspections. I didn't mark this up. Actually, I had my assistant do this for me just as a demo for you guys, for everybody here. But in this case, instead of a 17-day inspection access or appraisal and all that, I might knock that down to 7 days. From 17 days to 7 days. Why? Shows that I'm serious. Shows that I'm bona fide. Now, if I get to 5 or 6 days or the 7th day and I'm not quite certain, I can always ask for an extension, right? So that's one of the things, just a real simple, basic 101 realtor, why ask for 17 days if you really feel like you can get the inspections done or you can do whatever due diligence you need, whether that be title reports, checking with the city, permit issues. Why ask for 17 days if you believe you can get it done in 7 days or 5 days or 10 days? So that's a big deal. Or you love the deal so much, you're like, I don't need I don't need it. I've already looked at the deal. I'm locked in with these terms. I can do this deal all day long. Okay. So I'm going to continue. Not a lot on this contract. Not a lot on this contract. I left it blank. I've already kind of did all the talking points. Pretty simple here. So if I continue, let me go to this is what would tag along. Now, again, getting a little bit of background noise. So let's see here. Let me go to participants. If you guys are coming in, please manage your mutes, please. Thank you for that. All right. So Hillary, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Marvin, does it say seller financing addendum? All right, sweet. Love it. So this is really where it's at. This is where again, seller finance addendum. Okay. What are we doing here? In this case, I'm asking the seller to give me $300,000. I want them to finance the whole deal. $1,500 a month, right? Is there an interest rate? In this case, it's blank. Why is it blank? Because in this case, I'm not offering an interest rate. Is there going to be a loan application? In this case, I could potentially say, yeah, I'll do a loan application, or I might put 0. I might check this box and put 0 days. And then in the addendum or the additional terms right here, I might check item 16, no credit report. Okay, I could put that there. Okay. So these are all things. Now, remember I talked about all-inclusive deed of trust. Guess what? That's here. You can do an all-inclusive deed of trust. They have it here on the California car form. Okay. That's here as well. Tax ID numbers. Are you going to have tax ID numbers? And then also, if there's senior financing. So really, they don't have a box on the original RPA. To my knowledge, I looked at it thoroughly multiple times. By the way, I don't use this contract a lot. Why am I doing this? Because if I had a realtor say, well, you know, we'd really prefer to see it on the car form, or we'd like to see it on the most current version of the car form, I would then have to jump through this hoop. Also, why am I using this form? By the way, I don't normally use this form. I'm telling you that straight up. But why am I covering this today? Because some of you have access to this and you may be required to do it. Okay. So now senior loans, item 20 here. Let's talk about that for a minute. What does that really mean? Senior loans. That's subject to, folks. That's where there may actually be a first mortgage in here. You know, maybe they have a Ocwen or a Mr. Cooper first on here for $250,000 as an example, the loan number, the approximate balance, right? Or the original balance. And then maybe in here too, I might type in current balance, and then I might, you know, bracket it and say approximate payment, approximate interest rate, all of that. So this is where all the details of your loan is going to go. Now, if there's a maturity date, let's just say the loan is 2 years old. It's a 30-year mortgage. This is simple math, folks. What's the maturity date? It's going to be 28 years from now, right? So it would be, you know, if the loan was originated in April of, 2020, right? Okay. What's 30 years? Okay. That's going to be the maturity date. And in this case, no balloon if it's, fully amortized, right? So potential for negative amortization. If you don't know, you don't know. But see, this is literally right here where you would have a subject to. You could literally go subject to the first, and then the seller could be carrying back a second. And so in this case, you could be talking about, a second loan here, what the interest rate would be to the seller. But it's all here, folks. And by the way, in 30, 45, 60, 90 minutes, in fact, even if I were here for 5 hours, I'm not necessarily going to be able to spoon feed you this. Let's be clear. I said this before. I'm pointing you in the right direction. You need to actually pull up the form and play with the form and actually go through and do a scenario. Now, what I love is, Casey, you don't mind, I can share with what you sent me, right? I'm not going to share the actual document or the address. Okay. So Casey, he actually was working on a deal and he sent me, Casey's here in the group, Casey Chan. He sent me like, hey, I'm going to make this offer. This is what the realtor's doing. And he sent me a full mock-up of the RPA and the seller financing addendum. That's how you're going to learn this, is actually by getting in the water. Now, don't go diving into the deep end of the water. Start over on the kiddie side and wade through. Now, I can tell you this. I forgot about this. But my claim to, one of my claims to fame, I've been in the business since 1993. I bought my first deal. I was 30 years in the business, right? Today, I feel like I've been in the business 30 years. I feel with the allergy season, I feel a little beat up today. So anyway, my point being is though, I forgot about, I graduated high school in 1989. And literally out of high school, probably in like 90, 91, I met a guy. He said, you need to buy these two books. One book was Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. This was like 90, 91. I was doing yard work. I was a landscaper, and I was giving him a bid. This guy named Jeff. Jeff was probably, so I'm like 19 years old. Jeff's probably 22, 23, and lives in a beautiful home, brand new truck, beautiful, brand new Corvette. And this guy's like a couple years, and I'm like, this dude's a drug dealer, right? I'm like, this is 1990 something too. There was no internet marketing, or he wasn't a guru. He wasn't making money on Instagram, right? This is 1990 something. I'm like, this dude's a drug dealer, right? And I'm like, what does this guy do? And I'm like, I'm curious. What do you do, Jeff? He goes, dude, I'm a contractor. And he goes, I build houses. I'm a framing contractor. But he goes, I'm also a real estate investor. And I'm like, what? And I knew already. I knew money was in real estate. And I was like, how do you do that? You're so young, And he's like, oh, come into my house. And we go into his office. Behind his desk, a bookcase full of books, all personal development, all finance, all real estate, full of books. The guy invests in himself. So that was number one. And he goes, these are the two best books. You're 19 years old. You need to read these books. Robert Allen's book, Nothing Down for the 90s, and then Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. Now, what I will tell you is this, and this is the reason I brought this up. I always talk about I was in the business. I've been in the business since 1993. But the truth is, I actually really started in 1990 because I was a student, like a lot of you. I hadn't done a deal. And equivalent to this Zoom, I would go to meetups. They weren't called meetups, and I'd pay $20 at the door for a, half a day, Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to noon, or Tuesday night from, 7 to 9 p.m., and I would go to these free things. In fact, there's a teacher, she's still out there, one of my original teachers, and I forgot to give her, a credit. She's still out there. You can find her. Her name's Alexis McGee. And they owned a company called foreclosures.com. It wasn't .com back then. It was literally in the 1990s. I subscribed to the foreclosure list. I would get it as a fax. Okay. So here's the reason why. Why are you telling us about the old days? Who cares? Big deal. Big deal about all that. I was a student for 2 or 3, 18 months, 24 months, whatever it was. I was a student. And let me just tell you this, the reason why I say this about the contracts before I keep going. I spent probably 8 to 10 hours a week reading, learning, and reading the contracts, understanding the business before I ever bought my first deal. So my point being, and I'm going to go get back on point, when I say that if you spent an hour a night for 2 weeks playing with these, filling them out, playing with them, filling them out, playing with them, filling them out, doing mock-up offers. Has anybody here ever traded stock, by the way? So they have a thing with, I forget the term. What is the term, Alex? Does anybody know? You can unmute yourself. They have a thing where you basically, you pretend like you're buying the stock. So you would write the stock down. I'm going to buy Apple today. And paper trade. Thank you. Who said that?
Jeff.
Awesome.
Board.
Jeffrey. There you go. Thank you, Jeffrey. Paper trade. So what I want all of you to do, 100% of this, everybody, nobody teaches it, or maybe some people do. I want you to paper trade and learn how to do this business by actually writing out mock offers. Write out, I would say, a minimum of 5 of these. Do 5 mock offers, paper trade, before you actually make an offer. Unless you've already been making offers and you're like, hey, I'm already doing this. And if you already got momentum, then great. God bless you. But I'm saying for some of you, if this is like brand new, paper trade. Write out 5 of these before you even, start, just so you can get comfortable with it. Really get familiar with prepayment penalties, due on sale clause, all of these things, right? So that is the basic skeleton of a modern day offer off the car forms. You got the original RPA, and then you've got the second part, which is the seller financing. And again, I'm speaking to, this event is for realtors. If you're a non-realtor, hang in there with us. You'll still learn some shit, but this is for the realtors. I want the realtors to really understand those two documents you want to get familiar with. Now I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to go hard on documents, and then I'm going to open it up for all kinds of Q&A. Now, normally, also, what I would do is I would have an addendum, and I would have an addendum to the purchase agreement, and I would have in terms, and I'd have very specific terms, like prior to the close of escrow. These are important to know. The seller's going to allow me, is going to give me a authorization to release information. Why? That way I can contact the lender. I can check on loan balances. I can confirm if they've received my payments. Also, I'm going to get from the seller, a notice of change address. Why? Because if I'm buying the property from them and I'm taking over their existing loan, subject to, I want to make sure that those mortgage statements come to my office so that we can look at them, we can review them, since now we have the responsibility to make those payments. Also, the ability to change the address. Also, same thing for the HOA. Same thing, also escrow letter for any, like if there's escrow holding, things of that nature. Also a limited power of attorney that deals specifically for that property, for insurance, mortgage payments, any matters dealing with that property specifically. Okay, that's a really big deal. Now, also, that if there's any insurance proceeds, seller shall execute an assignment of insurance proceeds. That way, again, if the existing insurance is left in the seller's name, I'll need to have an executed assignment so that if something does happen and we still have that old existing insurance, but I bought the property from the seller, I need to have access to that insurance. Okay. Also, seller understands they're going to hold us harmless and release us of any and all liability regarding insurance coverage. The buyer's representations and warranties, that we're not making any promises outside of these documents. Okay, seller's representation and warranties, that there's nothing withheld, there's nothing non-disclosed. If the property's in foreclosure, if there's anything going on with the property, they're going to let us know that. Sellers acknowledging when they sell us the property on a subject to, they no longer have ownership or control. Okay. They understand that this is not a loan. It's not like we're loaning them money. We're buying the property from them. We're buying it outright. The existing loan is not going to be paid off. It's not going to be paid in full. There may be continued liability on the existing loan. The seller is no longer going to have the tax deduction. Okay. Also, failure to make timely payments. Seller understands that in this case, the payments are still going to be an obligation. Okay. Existing loan on credit report. This loan is going to stay on their credit report. Now, the good news is a lot of times when we buy these properties from pre-foreclosures, a lot of times, like as an example, I'm at a property right now where the property, they basically abandoned it. They hadn't made payments in, I don't know, 9 months, 14, 15 months. They had abandoned the property. The property was partially boarded up. And so this was a complete negative. If it had gone foreclosure, it would have been on their credit for 7 years as a foreclosure, potentially credit, like a bankruptcy foreclosure. Again, things may change. It might be shorter, but traditionally bankruptcies, foreclosures stay on credit reports for 7 years. That may or may not be accurate, but you get it. It's definitely a bad mark on your credit. In this case, I pulled the property out of foreclosure. And my objection handler always to a seller is, well, gosh, what if you buy the property and the loan's in our name? What if you don't make payments? And I go, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you think that the only way I can really make money is if I can do what I say I can do? Now think about it. If I'm buying the property from you, if I'm giving you $10,000 at close of escrow, I'm taking over these existing payments. Okay. I may be in some cases reinstating the loan, meaning bringing the loan current, right? Maybe that's another $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 to reinstate a loan, pull it out of foreclosure. I'm also going to probably spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to renovate the property, to get it rent ready, right? To get it cleaned up and ready for the market. Do you think I would do all of that and then not make the payments? I've got a vested interest. We both have a mutual benefit here. The last thing I would want to do is put all this money into the property and then not make payments, right? That would be a disaster. You guys follow along with this thought process? Okay. Thank you. I will open it up for questions in a minute, but I want to get through some of this paperwork stuff. And it's a lot. And it's being recorded. It's all being recorded. So you guys will get the playbacks on this. So. Due on sale clause. There could be a due on sale clause. They're acknowledging that. They're acknowledging anything with property insurance proceeds, maintaining the property insurance. They understand buyer's option to execute a quitclaim deed. If that is the case, acknowledgement of disclosures. Okay. All of that. So the idea is that I can put this into an addendum and make this a part of the transaction. And what is all of that stuff there? It's just full disclosure to the seller that these are all the things that could potentially happen. And they're acknowledging it. We're going into this with eyes wide open. We know that there is, things could happen. Things may not work out perfectly, right? If the national economy totally crashes, there is a chance that that house could fall back into foreclosure. But guess what? You were going to lose it anyway, right? I mean, you think about common sense. So let's look at, now I could take this addendum I just showed you, but I could also just put it on a car form. And guess what? That's the way we satisfy realtors. We could just basically compact it all and turn it into a 2 or 3 page car form. Okay. Now I want to show you guys, I also use, this is an example, same contract. A lot of times when I'm direct to seller, almost always, I also put in here, no agency, no commission, no fees. That's a big deal. If I'm direct to seller, I'm not representing them. It's just an A to B transaction. And so that's a really big deal. You'll also see in here, property is being sold as is with no repairs. Seller will pay no commission, no broker fees, and no closing costs, no agency express or implied. Why? Why is that so important? Because one thing you do not want to do is you do not want the seller to come back and go, wait a minute, you were my agent and you had a fiduciary obligation. All of you that are agents, just real quick, raise your hand, raise a finger. Okay. All right. So agency is not express or implied. However, if you go in there and the contracts all say, ABC Realty, Banana Realty Company, Bob Smith, real estate broker, and all of that is in there, now you've basically implied that you have a fiduciary duty. My personal experience is that could create significant conflicts and create legal liability for you. So something that I've always said, and that's why I'm going so hard on this. Again, this is recorded. You want to make sure that everything is fully disclosed. And just know that, no, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're a seller. I'm a buyer. I want this to be fair. I want it to be mutually beneficial for both of us. But again, if you don't want the property and you're in a position where you can't sell the property and this is causing distress, then guess what? This can be a great solution. And by the way, I can tell you that 99% of the time, I've never bought properties that didn't have some form of distress, meaning person who had a job transfer. Like right now, it's the middle toward the end of May, or excuse me, middle of April. If somebody had to be at their job on May 1st and they've had their home on the market for 120 days and the house is mediocre, the house is not sharp, the house is average, it's a little overpriced, they have very little equity, they can't price reduce because they have no equity to price reduce. They don't want to just walk away and abandon the house and let it go to foreclosure. Right? They've tried the market, whatever the case may be. This, I believe, may be coming in this market we're in, where you're going to get properties that are mediocre and or they're going through a divorce. There's very little to no equity. Or maybe there is equity, but they just can't afford to keep the payments going. And they'd rather take their equity in installments. Okay? I can say that if they're not in distress, then in most cases, or they're not a highly sophisticated seller, because you'll get on the other end, you'll get somebody that's highly sophisticated. I said this, I think, on week 1. I'm 51, I'll be 52. I believe at some point in my 70s, 70, 75, 80 years old, I may take some of my problem properties, problem tenant properties, and I may say, you know what? Some of these properties, let's sell them on seller finance. I'd rather just upgrade my position from a landlord to a lien lord, to a lien holder. Upgrade my position from a landlord to the bank, carry back the paper, sell it to one of you who's a smart investor, and just truly get passive income and not have to worry about tenants or toilets or taxes. You guys with me on that? That's also but the middle, there's really no opportunity in the middle. Meaning, if there's no real distress, if the people don't really have to sell, then this probably will not be a good fit for them. Also, you're not going to be clever. You're not going to hoodwink somebody. You're not going to get so good at sales that you're going to be able to talk somebody into doing something they don't want. And in fact, let me just tell you straight up, you're wasting your time because those deals will blow up in your face. Okay? They're the worst nightmare deals ever. If the people don't need to sell, if they don't truly have distress, bad tenants, the property's dilapidated, they're in some financial stress where they need to sell, and this is a good solution for them to their problem or problems. You guys get where I'm going on this, right? It's the right person for the right solution. It's the right solution for the right person, right? So that's a really big part of this. Let me continue, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. This is probably the longest one, so let me continue. So again, we're paying all the fees. I talked about that in this contract. This is a big one that no agency expressed or implied. No agency representations are being made. One or more buyers is a licensed broker participating for profit. I've got my broker's license in there. All parties of the group or an investment group locating, securing property for the intent of investment or profit. Seller has not paid, will not pay commissions. Now, if you are receiving a buyer's agent commission, if you're representing yourself as a buyer's agent and there's a listing agent, that in fact will work. You don't have to waive your commission. You don't have to waive agency in all cases. But if you're direct to seller, I personally believe not taking commissions and making sure that there's no agency express or implied is a big deal. But anytime you're buying, whether it's a flip deal, wholesale deal, creative finance, you need to always disclose that you're an agent and you should have your license in there. Also talking about marketing, resale, buyer's right to reserve, to resell the property, physical inspections, the property's being sold as is. Now, all of that, again, those are just simple disclosures. again, you can watch this on the replay, right? You still got to do your own work, right? So that's a big deal. If you're buying it to flip it, if you're buying direct to seller, if you're buying through another broker, even if you're buying a home and you're a licensed agent, you need to disclose that. And I would suggest disclosing, it's better to disclose more just to be really clear that everything is out in the open. Now, one of the things I always feel good about, now I hate legal messes and lawsuits and mediations and all of that. But I got to also say that it comes with the territory. If you're an investor, or if you're a landlord, has anybody read some of the crazy things that are happening in California with landlords and eviction moratoriums and just like protests out in front of the county courthouse because landlords are unhappy that how could we not, COVID's over, but yet there's still moratoriums, right? If you are going to be in this game, there will be a little bit of legal headache. Okay. If you don't do your paperwork right, there will be a lot of legal headache. If you get involved with people that are not mentally, emotionally stable, there will be legal headaches. Because I've had lots of people call me lately, not my students, not my close friends per se, people that I know, people I'm acquainted with, but call me and like, hey, I'm in this deal. And all of a sudden the person's saying the person's like getting all crazy with me and like all upset and like, like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I mean, you can tell them, here's a copy of the paperwork. All the paperwork was very clear. I explained to you, you can basically review it with them and say, hey, look, I was very upfront with you. Here's what we've done. Here's what we told you we're going to do. But let me just tell you guys, the best way to avoid trouble is to avoid trouble. Meaning, don't get wrapped up in a deal. Don't be so thirsty for a deal. Don't be so greedy for a deal or so enthusiastic or so hungry for a deal that you get involved with people that are shady. By the way, has anybody ever dealt with a shady seller? Couple people. All right. Not a lot. There's plenty of them out there, meaning that, there's people out there that, that are just shady or people that are unreliable. And what I mean is that their life is so chaotic and, their life is so distressed. They've got all these things going on. Life is stressful for them. They're really struggling. They're dealing with all these financial problems. They're dealing with tenant problems and whatever, but their life is so stressed that their life is a total mess. I'm going to suggest that you avoid those. Even if they're willing to, yeah, I'll do whatever. Yeah, whatever. Like, where do I sign? Let me get some money. Those can come back to bite you because, again, if those people are unstable, those could be problems. And I'm telling you, these are words of wisdom. Take it from all of these gray hairs right here. Thank God I have a lot of hair. But take it from the gray hairs. I earned every one of them. Every week, I earn all of them. Dealing with stressful people. So just be careful here. Again, I know I'm preaching a little bit, but I want to be thorough on this. The best way to avoid trouble is to avoid it early. Don't get involved with people that are such a mess. Their life is so chaotic. They're going to pull you into that mess. Okay. I can't say that strong enough. Let me continue. I will open it up for questions. Okay. So let's see. What else did I want to talk about? Authorization to release information. Very simple. Loan number, owner's name, loan number, property address, the date, hereby authorized, blah, blah, blah. And the associates, property management, they sign, social security numbers, signatures, all of that. So that's an authorization to release information. I talked about the addendum. Let me go through this real quick. Very, very simple. You can Google this. It's called First Tuesday. Some of you know about First Tuesday. These are, First Tuesday is a company, I believe they're based in California, but they write contracts for California. By the way, it is not a state law. You do not have to, this is so confusing for a lot of people. California Association of Realtors, right? You guys all saw the contracts I showed. It's got that logo up there in the upper left-hand corner. Car, it's got a, California Association of Realtors. That is not the state of that is not the state of California's legal contract. California Association of Realtors is a trade organization. Okay? You can almost think of it almost like a union. Right? So like I've got a cousin, he's a truck driver, he works for UPS. He's a Teamster. He's a member of the Teamsters Union. Okay? You do not have to be a realtor. You do have to have a real estate license to join the MLS, or a broker's license. You have to have a broker's license and work under a broker as a salesperson's license in California, but you do not have to be a member of the California Association of Realtors. Why am I telling you this? Because you can use other contracts. Okay? You could use your own contract. I see a lot of wholesalers, wholesale courses and all that. And by the way, you don't need to buy courses to do this, but there are those 1- and 2-page contracts out there. And then you could follow it up with addendums. But let me tell you why I don't like the 1-page and 2-page contracts. Now, I've used them from time to time. I use them from time to time, but I generally don't like them and I don't encourage them. Here's why. Because they don't cover what if. Meaning, what if something goes wrong? What if, non-performance, contingencies, all of that. The California Association of Realtors contract is incredibly thorough. In fact, it's too thorough, but it is very, very thorough for a reason. Everything in there is covered. So for that reason, I think if you're a realtor and you're in California or whatever state you're in, you need to know your state contracts inside and out. Now, I'll continue, and I know there's going to be a lot of Q&A, hopefully. First Tuesday puts out, I believe, a great set of simplified contracts. I believe the California Association Realtor contracts, in a lot of cases, is overkill. Most of the stuff is blank, but it's nice to have in there. This First Tuesday contract is very thorough, and what I like about it, boom, 0.5. Right there on page 1 in the finance terms, they have take the box subject to. Take title subject to, and then you can spell out all your terms. How much is the interest rate? Approximately what's the mortgage? Is there an impound account? Is the seller also going to carry back, right? Is this going to be a hybrid where you're taking over subject to, and then you're going to have a carryback? And by the way, you can Google First Tuesday purchase agreement PDF, and it'll come up. That's how I got this. It's out there. They give their forms away for free. So they have subject to, they have the seller finance portion of it. It's all there. The thing I like about the First Tuesday contract is it's in plain English. It's not in, hyper attorney legalese, like the California Association. Again, you need to know how to use the California Association, especially if there's another realtor involved on the listing side. You're going to need to use that and know that. But again, I think for direct to seller transactions, you can use this First Tuesday contract and then just put addendums behind it. Okay. So also, last thing, and then we're almost to questions. It's 1:01. We are at the top of the hour. California Association also has this. If you're writing notes down, take note of this. This is critical, especially for California. If you are in another state, you need to know your foreclosure laws. I'll say it again. Whatever state you are in, you need to know your foreclosure laws when it comes to buying and selling real estate in foreclosure. That is an absolute huge, huge piece. And let me get into it. So this is what's called, this is First Tuesday again. You can Google this. You can find the form, Google First Tuesday, Equity, Purchase Agreement, PDF. Boom. There you go. You'll have this form. This is an equity purchase agreement. Now notice line 5, it also has the subject to, very similar to the other contract I just showed you. But here's the biggest part about it. California Association also has one. It's this. You'll want to write this down. Civil Code 1695. California Civil Code 1695. What is that? Civil Code 1695 in California is where if you're an investor, let me define an investor. If you are buying a piece of property as a non-owner occupant, also known as, AKA, an investor, if you are buying a property as a non-owner occupied, you're going to Airbnb it. It's going to be your second home. It's going to be a vacation rental. It's going to be your vacation home. If you are buying it as a non-owner occupant, AKA investor, you are going to need to use a contract that is Civil Code 1695 California law compliant. What does that mean? In a Civil Code 1695 California transaction where an investor buys from an owner occupant. Now, if you're an investor buying from another investor, Civil Code 1695 does not apply. If you are buying this as your primary residence from an owner occupant, Civil Code 1695 does not apply. And also, let me just say really quick, do not try to be cute with this. Do not F around with this. Don't be, well, I'm just going to pretend like it's my primary residence. Don't do that. Again, remember what I said, stay out of trouble by staying out of trouble. Do smart deals by doing smart deals. So don't try the cutesy thing. I'm going to pretend like this is going to be owner occupied, but in fact, you have no intent. You have 30 properties, you have 50 properties, you have your primary residence. There's no way in hell you're going from your $800,000 house to move into this $300,000 house in a C neighborhood, and you've got 4 kids and you're moving into this 3-bedroom. Don't play around with it. It's not worth it. Do it the right way. That's what I'm trying to show you here. Also, if you're in another state, learn your rules for your state. Civil Code 1695. And again, CAR does have this form. CAR has an equity purchase agreement as well. I didn't dig it up because this is easier to do. But basically what it is you have to give them 5 days, 5-day rescission right. So in here it says, until your right to cancel this contract is ended, blank should be your name and or add your LLC name and your personal name, or anybody working for, again, your name as the buyer, whoever the buyer is, and the LLC name if there's an LLC involved. Okay. They have 5 days, 5 days to cancel this. Okay. And then you need to write the time. So whatever it is, you're going to have to count out the days and write it out. And if you're not sure, well, wait a minute, it's 3 o'clock and it's Thursday. Does that mean, if you're not sure, give it to the next day, right? Don't play around with this. Don't screw it up. Give it till, and it literally needs to be midnight on the 5th day. They have till midnight, 11:59 p.m. that 5th day to cancel this. And then you also need to have your proper mailing address. Again, if you're a broker and you have a license number, again, typically on these where it says seller's broker, buyer's broker, I'm typically writing in, if I'm direct to seller, no agency express or implied. Okay. In the additional term somewhere, I will write in that I'm a licensed broker, or on the addendum, I'll also put my license number, but I'm not putting my license number or my broker name or my name on the, because this right here, this is the representation portion of it. And again, you'll get the replay, so you'll know how to do this. And then you need to also fill this out, and you'll need to leave this with the seller. Notice the cancellation. This will all be filled out, the 5 days. They'll have the right to cancel. And Again, you'll fill all of this out and you'll leave a copy. You'll leave one of these with them. You'll leave them both with them. That way, if they want to, they can cancel within those 5 days. Okay. Now, I literally just threw about 70 hours of my law school at you guys here in the last, whatever it's been, 65 minutes. Let's open it up for questions. And what I prefer, okay, there we go. Hillary, what I would prefer, you guys all have a reaction tab. Even if you're on your iPhone or your Droid phone, you have the ability to raise your hand. Okay. So let's go to Hillary. Hillary, go for it.
Thank you, Ty. Thanks for doing this. I actually have a couple, so I'm going to bang it through. First one is on that payment for the mortgage.
Yep.
My understanding was that in that sub 2, I would set it up to where I'm making that direct payment. Is the assumption? Okay, I missed that. Okay. Then how do I get out of that when and if I want to sell later?
You would just order a payoff demand. You're going to have the seller's social security number. You're also going to have authority from the seller. Remember the whole thing in the addendum where they're giving you a notice, they're giving you an authorization. They're also giving you a power of attorney, not a power of attorney over their life and their bank accounts and their affairs. Right. They're giving you a very specific power of attorney as the new property owner for that property. So you would simply, you wouldn't actually even do anything. When you're going to resell it, the escrow company, title company, escrow company would then say, okay, we're going to order a payoff. Can you give us the loan number? Who is the mortgage company? And then a social security number for the borrower. And you would just email that over and they order the payoff.
And then thank you. The last question then to follow up on that is if I didn't turn around and sell it, and I build the equity in there, how soon can I pull equity? Does that need to be, is there anything I need to know around that? Thank you. Did you catch that? Did I lose you?
Yeah, I did. I just had to blow my nose.
That's okay.
Allergies.
My allergies are kicking.
Man, the struggle's real. Mike Tyson talks about, yeah, it's all good until you get punched in the face. And it's like, well, till you get allergies. I don't even need Mike Tyson. I got allergies punching me in the face. So, you can pull equity, but it's going to require you to refinance all of the debt in most cases. So typically, let's talk about that. In most of the markets I've bought in, and most of the majority, not recently, but the stuff kind of from the old days, most of the stuff I bought, the interest rates were bouncing around between 6 and 8%. Let's say 6 and 8.5% was probably the majority of my career. Now, the last 5 or 7 years, we've had this ridiculous, like these 2 and 3 and 4 and 5% mortgages are just unheard of. Traditionally, the mortgage market should be somewhere, if you look at like the last 50 years and outside of the 80s and outside of right now, 6 to 8.5%. So here's what I would do. If I had a lot of equity in a property or I had a good equity gain, I potentially would take a property that had a 7% mortgage. And after 6 months, they call it 6 months of seasoning. The new lender refinance you, they're typically going to want to see 6 months of seasoning. And in most cases, a lot of you could get what's called a DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio, I believe is what it stands for. DSCR, you could get that loan. The challenge though is this: if your interest rate, if you take over subject to on a 3% mortgage or a 4% mortgage, do you really want to refinance it? So in most cases, almost all lenders are going to require seasoning, meaning you've owned it for about 6 months and now you can refinance, full equity, all of that. So that's typically how it works. Does that help, Hillary? Thumbs up. Cool. I love it. Let's go to Moses.
Hey, Ty, thanks. So I'm in Florida, so I know I don't have any California contract questions for you, but I was just wondering in a 1031 exchange, if there's any certain difficulties you ran into or someone you do know who's investing in another state, is a 1031 doable? And if it is, like what type of hardships have investors looked in and doing that kind of thing, going state to state?
So just to clarify your question, are you talking about the seller, the person you're buying it from, is going to 1031 into another property? Or are you talking about you've bought this asset, you've held it for a while, and now you're going to 1031?
More or less just investors that are going, like say you're in California, but you want to invest in Florida. Is there any sort of like complications that they would run into in that type of thing? Because, you know, it's different states or anything like that. Because obviously my contracts, I'm following with you with your contract with my Florida contract. So they're nothing alike. So I was just curious. That's pretty much the only question I could have for you. And is it a 1031 issue or not?
No, there shouldn't be, shouldn't be any issues with 1031.
Okay.
I'm not certain, but I know for sure, I'm not certain on the time period, but I know that a lot of times what I've heard in seminars from 1031 specialists, and I've done a lot of 1031s, but I don't claim to be like the go-to absolute, but typically they want to see it over at least one period of a tax return, meaning that if you bought the property in 22, now it's on your 22 tax return. In 23, you 1031 exchange it into, you know, whatever, going to California to Florida or wherever you're going on your exchange. I know that that's been recommended, suggested, but I don't know if there's a specific time period of 6 months, 9 months, 11 months, 12 months, whatever. So you need to look into that, but no, there's no complications. You can 1031. Yeah, that's not an issue. Easy breezy.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Moses. All the way from Florida. Love it. Harold. You can unmute, brother. You're muted still.
Sorry about that. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ty, thank you for your time, man. Appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. I just picked up a subject to property in Pennsylvania, and I'm still a little confused in regards to what's the best option to do as far as the home insurance. Should I add my LLC to the existing home insurance that he has, or I had a broker tell me I should just take out my own and leave that one in place, and just, you know, in case something happens, I just put the claim on mine. But obviously I'm going to be paying more money.
Yeah.
You know, what would be the best option to handle, you know, the home insurance?
I don't have a straightforward yes or no answer, but I'll give you kind of my thoughts on it.
Okay.
I've done both. I've added myself as, you know, so we'll buy it. We're now the owners of the property. And then we just, you know, done the addition, add us on as additionally insured. And that works well. We've never had any claims in that manner, which was a good thing. But the claim could get a little sticky because then maybe the seller's like, well, wait a minute. I want a portion of this. So I think it kind of depends if you have a lot of equity yourself, or there's a lot of equity in the property, it may be a better idea for you just to go and get your own new insurance and keep both. If the cash flow is really good and there's a lot of equity, you might do that. If the cash flow is tight, you might just add yourself on to the additional insured. You should have, though, one of the big things, though, that I covered in there, you should have a document that's an assignment of all insurance rights that's notarized, that's a notarized document.
Yeah.
You know, that not only do you give that to the insurance agent, say, hey, add me on, but also should there be a claim, that should suffice that you're the owner, you're the person paying the premium now. You know, if there, you know, God forbid, there should be a claim. And by the way, I hate insurance. I hate insurance claims. Man,
Me
stressful,
too.
dude. I've lost so much sleep. I never had a fire in 30 years. And then I had a fire last year on a really kind of a weird deal. And man, I've lost so much sleep on that deal, man. And even thank God I had insurance, But it was like, man, I learned so much about it. Like, I'm like, yeah. And nobody got hurt. There was no injuries, but it just, yeah, insurance is make sure, I would say if you're in doubt though, always go for a little bit more coverage and just go the better, safer route when it comes to insurance. Meaning in this case, based on your scenario, it would be being double insured.
Yeah, and also when you get insured, like let's say if I was to add my name to the one at the policy that the seller, the previous owner has, will that pose any flags to the bank? Because the insurance,
Yeah,
they
it could.
report everything to the banks.
Is there
And
an
there's a
impound
link.
account? I should have asked that earlier. Is there an impound account on the property and the mortgage?
What do you mean? The mortgage is getting paid from the bank.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
It's an FHA loan.
okay. So let me explain. This is good. This is good because I didn't cover this, but this is good. So I'll explain to everybody here. This is a good learning point. We're realtors, whatever. Sometimes we don't know this. They don't teach this. There's what's called an impound account. And there's two ways mortgage companies collect payments. Some mortgage companies, or based on the loan, and in this case, he said FHA. So FHA and VA loans, usually because there's very little to no equity, they're typically going to set up an impound account. And what does that mean? When somebody's making their mortgage payment to Mr. Cooper, Wells Fargo, whoever the lender is, there's an impound account. And what does that mean? The impound. What does impound mean? Principal, interest, that belongs to the bank. But then there's the second two. The second two are taxes and insurance. PITI, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. Technically, if you have an impound account, that means you're paying PITI. Also, technically, when you're making that PITI payment, that's actually the money they're collecting isn't paying the taxes and insurance for that month or that time period. They're actually collecting that money in advance for the next time the renewal comes up for the insurance or for the next time the property taxes are due. And so technically, it's almost like the property owner, they have a little piggy bank that's with the mortgage company, and that's called an impound account where they're holding the money for the taxes and insurance. Now, the other way is that if you're putting a large down payment, a buyer's putting down a large payment, 20% down, conventional loans, almost, most of them, not all of them. And some of them do it. There's no rhyme or reason. Some people have impound accounts. Some companies will elect you to be able to choose that. Yes, I want an impound account. But in the other way is where they just collect the principal and interest. And in this case, the principal and interest, can you guys hear that phone ringing?
No.
Okay, good. So they'll collect the principal and interest. And what will happen is the principal and interest, they'll collect it, but then you as the owner are responsible to pay the taxes every year and to pay the insurance every year. So every year you get a big bill for your property taxes. You get a big bill for, not a big bill, a little bill, but you just pay that on your own. That makes sense? So that's no impound account. Does this house have an impound account?
Yes.
Okay. So it could be a red flag if you go and get rid of the insurance. If you cancel the existing insurance, it could be a red flag. So what I would probably do is I'd either A, get an additional insurance policy, or B, add yourself onto it through the documentation that we talked about already.
So even if I add myself to the insurance that he has now, it won't cause any. There will be no flags. I add myself as an insurer. My LLC
should not be, but I'm putting an asterisk by it. I mean, you never know, right? I don't know. Who knows, right? No rhyme or reason. By the way, everybody talks about due on sale. I'm the only guy I know that got called due on sale. I've been called due on sale twice on sub 2 deals. So I've actually had it happen. I'm happy to share that if anybody, whatever. But I don't know anybody. And in fact, I know people that have done hundreds and hundreds of deals, never had a due on sale clause. But yeah, I think the right way to minimize the due on sale is to
separate insurance.
just add yourself on. There's no guarantee about anything in life though, right? So
And if you get a due on sale clause, what do you do? Get the house deeded back and do a lease option?
That's definitely one way you could get around it. The other thing is you could maybe have deed it to a trust in the name of the seller. Again, I'm not giving legal advice. I'm not an attorney. I was playful about law school. I didn't go to law school. I'm not an attorney. I'm not making any, this isn't CPA or legal advice. And I said that everybody's responsible for themselves, but potentially you could maybe deed it back to the seller. You could deed it to a trust in the name of the seller, even though you have the controlling interest of the trust. You could potentially, refinance the property. So that's what I did in my scenarios, but I held the properties for a while. I had good equity in them. The market had gone up. So that's what I did is I refinanced.
Okay. So when you do the trust, it's good to put the address of the trust, not the name of the seller, right?
Potentially. Again, I'm not an attorney. I can't advise you on trusts. We're going a little bit more advanced, but yeah, probably something like that.
Okay. All right.
Their name, the property address, something like that.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it, man.
Again, this is not legal advice. I'm not licensed and also I'm only licensed in California for real estate. So thank you, brother. Glad you're here, Harold. Thank you. I'll be right back. I'm going to take a coughing break. Okay, let's get it, Alex.
Not a question. Just wanted to let you know I'm trying to submit a couple of deals to you on the website and it's not working.
What website?
Squad up.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that it was published. Did John tell you about it or something? Or
Yeah, I just got off the phone with him recently.
okay, I'll take a look. Email the deals and
Okay.
send them to me. CC me. Send them to John. Also mention in the email about the website not working. I'm not sure. I didn't officially say to launch it, so but all good. I'm glad for the feedback because we haven't launched anything. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Gotcha.
Glad you're here, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love it. More questions. Benicio.
So,
Sorry, go ahead, Benicio.
all right. So sorry, Benicio's my son. He had a Zoom class yesterday.
This kid's in school. I remember that all the time. What is your name?
Yeah.
You're Alex, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I know you're
So,
Alex.
yeah,
Like
brother.
that dude Benicio looks just like Alex.
So my question was, I'm going to ask you a really stupid question. Do you sell these addendums, the one that you have already created, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel?
No, and just completely FYI, I'm not here to sell anything.
Right.
I won't sell. Also, too, I don't want the extended, quote unquote, extended liability per se.
Right.
And let me just tell you why. You'll be able to go watch the replays and you'll be able to read. You'll be able to read all of my contracts, just literally pause the screen. And then you can literally word for word rewrite them. But here's the thing though, and this is the reason why. This is the main reason why. And anybody who knows me knows I'm very, very generous. I give away so much stuff. In fact, this is all free, right? I'm giving this away. But here's why. You'll really learn it when you do it. When you do it, meaning you need to write your own addendums. You need to write your own contract templates. You need to set up your own forms and all of that. And I showed them all and I purposely zoomed in. I went really slow so you guys could rewrite all of this stuff. But you really, the learning is in the doing. The learning isn't in the zooming. The learning is in the doing. And remember, like I said, and I forgot about, I was the student. I thought I went to, whatever. And I just started buying deals. No, I was a student for several years, and had the contracts, had blank contracts and everything. I knew about Civil Code 1695 way back in the day. I knew that thing inside and out. I was like a super student and waiting to get a deal. And then finally everything came together. So I hope that helps you, brother.
Yeah, I have a couple more questions. If that's okay with you.
Please
Yes.
go.
So the next question is, since I come across pre-foreclosures, do you have a reliable source to postpone sale dates?
The reliable source I would say for all of you is to learn how to do it. And how you do it is you get the authorization, release information. You send that to the trustee, the attorney service that's doing the foreclosure. You also send it to the lender. They usually say, hey, we need 24 hours to process it.
Right.
And then at that point, you call them back the next day and you say, hey, this is Alex. I'm a real estate broker. I'm working on this deal. We've got a deal put together. We need you to postpone the trustee sale.
Got it.
Now they'll
So
say yes or no, or they'll always say, well, I don't know if we can do that. It's we're not sure. It has to go to a supervisor, blah, blah. Well, we are submitting the request. Please put it in. And the challenge is this: if we're not able to get a cooperative postponement, then unfortunately the seller will have to go to their attorney and file and get involved in some litigation. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. So rather than us get into legal litigation, if you could please submit the request, a formal request, and you got to do it with the mortgage company as well as to the trustee service. And then they'll both say, well, I don't know. I've got to check with the foreclosure attorney, the attorney service, the foreclosure service. I don't know. I've got to check with the lender. I got to check with the servicer. They'll both say the same thing. And then usually if you make if you do it in a timely manner, and most likely, a high percentage of the time you'll get it.
that's the
And
problem.
the most tedious thing about it, and I'll let you finish, I'm sorry.
Oh.
The most tedious thing about it is that you'll probably have to set on hold for 60, 90 minutes per entity and get transferred around and feel like you're getting the runaround. But that's what it takes. You got to be willing to set on hold for, 1.5 to 2 to 3 hours to get it done. That's what it takes.
So I tried exactly what you just said, but unfortunately, because the sale date's within 48 hours, they're not willing to comply. And the owner passed away, so it's a probate.
I would still just say that same thing. Like, hey,
Yeah, I've tried it. What I'm saying is I've talked to the trustee, to the trustee attorney, I've talked to the lender. I made several phone calls.
do you have any court documents on the probate?
It's just a petition at this moment, so it's not even a full. It's not
Ask
even a
the
full
attorney
probate.
for the petition.
Yeah, I did. I sent the petition over to the trustee department. I included the loan number on top of every page, the death certificate, a letter of explanation. And because we have two different departments.
When is
that
the
don't
sell
like
date?
Each other. 2 days from now. Sorry, Monday.
Can't be 2 days from now.
Monday.
Okay.
Monday.
I would just keep calling.
Yeah,
Keep calling
okay.
and say, hey, who's the lender?
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cooper's usually pretty good.
Not with this one. It's a non-owner occupied.
How many times is this thing? Have they postponed a bunch of times?
They were in NOD a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's why.
Then owner got COVID, passed away, then went to trust sale, then it got postponed. So that's one of the main reasons why it just keeps
That's
delaying,
why, is because it's
delaying.
kept getting postponed and
Right.
yeah. So
Mhm.
so one of the things is that you're not going to be able to, they probably have already postponed this thing 2, 3, 4 times.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the things. The only thing I can think of is that maybe ask the probate attorney or paralegal that, hey,
Mhm.
do a cease and desist letter from
Mhm.
the attorney or paralegal saying that, look, I've seen this work too. We need a postponement. If you do not, if you don't give us our postponement, we're going to file, legal action.
Right.
We're also going to report this to our
That's
local.
That's my next goal. I was going to follow the TRO.
Yeah, you could do that. And then also too, I think even this is interesting. I've seen this happen. You can call your local congressman or your local assemblyman. And if you can get through to somebody, you can say, hey, I've been working with this, blah, blah, blah. We've sent these reasonable requests. I can send my documents for review. Here's a copy of the petition. Here's a copy of XYZ. would your office be willing to step in on behalf of this constituent and write a letter requesting to the lender? And a lot of times what will happen is that assemblyman's assistant
Mhm.
or assemblywoman, assembly person, I don't know the proper term, but the assembly person or Senate, the congressperson, congressman, congresswoman, you get one of those. And this was 10 years ago, 12 years ago during REO days, but we had a fast track to a congressperson, and they would write a letter, and man, it was like,
Mm.
dude, they postponed the sale for 6 months.
That's a good idea.
So, and you're not going to get the congressman or congresswoman or assemblyman, but you're going to get one of their aides, and you got to treat their aide like gold. When you're talking, by the way, these aides, assistants to these Congress people and assembly people, they're really smart. They probably just graduated. They might have finished law school, and they're looking for an opportunity to shine for their boss.
Mhm.
They're looking for opportunities to shine in the community. So if you have ties to, some things too, as an example, and I've never, I've had other people on my team that, were very involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, NAREP, National, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, the Realtors Association. I was a member of the Realtors Association. And so sometimes you can sprinkle that into the conversation when you call the assembly person and say, hey, I work very closely with Gary Acosta. I'm very involved with the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. I'm very active with our legislative committee here with whatever your board of realtors is, XYZ. I've got an issue. I've got a problem. I realize you may not be able to help. However, there may be an opportunity here for you to help our community. See how I'm frameworking it? I've got this situation. And if you could write a letter, if you could get a letter from your office, I think that might help us save this property and save this for this family.
Got it.
And, now do you see what I did there?
Yeah. Yeah,
I sprinkled
exactly.
in some credibility though.
Put some
'Cause
extra
what
sauce on the tacos.
I put the secret sauce on the taco. That's right. And so
Yeah.
when I'm talking about NAREP, when I'm talking about, or whatever, the
Mhm.
local realtors committee, what I'm really talking about, and I'm talking about votes. I'm talking about, this is your community.
Mhm.
This is a chance for you to shine for your community, do something good for your community. Right. So they're looking for opportunities like that. And what does it cost? It doesn't cost them anything to write the letter, but don't go there first.
Right.
You have to do that 2 or 3 hours of on hold and all the work you've already done. Alex, make sense?
Right. Makes a lot of sense. What about at the same time, simultaneously?
This is
going
it.
to
You're
the
turning it
CO
into a coaching
CO
call.
I'm
You're
sorry.
turning
is
into a
this a
coaching
C-
call. It's your last
Well,
one.
this is something for the other people that might know. CFPB
Okay.
would be another issue, right? I can submit
What
that
is it?
through CFPB.
Explain that.
Remember CFPB.org. It was back in the days when there were short sales. Everybody would go in and they would file a complaint against the lender, and then CFPB is a third party that taxpayers pay. Then they write a nice letter.
You
I don't know.
could.
Okay.
It's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
That's it. That's
You
the one.
could. I just don't know
That's
how
the one.
responsive they are.
Thanks,
I
Dion.
didn't even know. I knew I knew there's something like that, but I've never heard that part, like
Okay.
somebody getting any traction there. So yeah, I
Okay.
mean, maybe, but the problem is a lot of those websites, you go there and you call or you try to get through and you just it's dead air.
Got it.
So that's all.
Thank you, guys.
Right on, man. Hey, and I was playing with you about the coaching call. I'm glad you asked a lot. You asked really
No
good
worries.
questions. So
Thank you, brother.
thank you. Thanks for being here. All right, let's go to Brian. If anybody else has a question, I know we're 36 minutes past the hour. You get your hand up. Let's be concise also on the questions because I'm going to wrap up. Hey, Brian.
Just real quick, where do you send the replays at?
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, where can you hear me? Where do you send the replays at?
We're holding off on the replays only because we want to put them in a centralized area where everybody can access them. So I'm not sending out replays at this moment. I hope to have that worked out within the next week, and then everybody will get a notice. Also, real quick, real quick. I want to correct something that I said. What happened to Brian? Oh, there he is. Okay, cool. Was there any other questions, Brian?
No, that was just it, because I didn't sign up for anything. My buddy actually just sent me the Zoom link or the Google Meet link, so I just been joining on there. So I'm not sure if I had to sign up on if you had a website or anything, you know.
Cool. Right on. I'm glad you're here. Let me tell everybody, because if you were getting emails from me, I got two things real quick. On the 5-day rescission, on the equity purchase agreement, Civil Code 1695, that's 5 business days. 5 business days, right? So 5 business days, not 5 calendar days. Also, if there's a holiday in there, you got to factor that out. So again, remember when I talked about a pre-foreclosure, if you're buying, the seller is an owner occupant, you're an investor, non-owner occupied buying in California, Civil Code 1695, there's a 5 business day rescission. Originally, I said 5 days. It's 5 business days. So let's talk about that. Today's Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday at 11:59 p.m., I believe, is 5 business days. Now, was my math wrong? Can anybody correct me? Is there a legal holiday in there? That's 5 business days. So 5 business days for Civil Code 1695, not 5 days. Also, for notifications, the best way to get notifications, stand by. Also, if you want the replays, that's a big deal too. You want the replays of all 3 weeks. That's a really big deal. I'll give that to you guys here. I'm just getting something to show you. And by. All right. If you want the replays, if you want to get notifications, please text the one word, Realtor, to the 949-401-7598. Again, just one word. A lot of you already did this, so you don't have to do it again. You're already getting text notifications. But text the word Realtor to 949-401-7598. Again, text the word Realtor to 949-401-7598, just the one word. And that's how we will make sure to send reminders out. We'll also send you the links to our next meeting. Week 4 will be May the 4th. That'll be our 4th Zoom. I will also send out the notifications for the replays once I get those finalized. One thought, this was something somebody said, hey, I want to get this via email. I get the text, but can I get it via email? The nice part about the text is it's automated and it's easy for me. A lot of you, some of you have been getting notifications via email, but that requires somebody to go in and to send you an email, usually me or my assistant. The texting, the 949, that portion, and I'll put this in the chat actually. The nice part is it's automated. So I can just literally in a few clicks send out whatever, 20, 30 messages and it's all in one click and it all gets delivered. So it doesn't end up in a spam filter. So text the word realtor to the 949-401-7598. It's in the chat. That's how you'll get notifications. Now, somebody said, can you email it to me? How about you just take the text message, copy it, and then email it to yourself. And then that way you can pull it up on your desktop. Or take the text message, copy it, and then put it in your calendar with a bunch of reminders for May the 4th, 12 p.m. You know, put it on, that way you get notifications. So just real simple, guys. Make it easy for me to help you guys. Also the 949 number, that's not like my mobile phone. That's just purely, and by the way, I don't spam you. I don't try to sell you shit. I'm not trying to beg you for, oh, come to my blah, blah, blah. But if I have stuff of value, like meaning like we did a meetup. In fact, I met a lot of you at the meetup. We did the meetup. We had like 700 people there, 700 plus people there. We sold that thing out in like days, sold it out in days. And why? It's because I sent out a bunch of texts. Everybody, signed up for it. So make it easy. Help me, help you, make it easy. Sign up, the 949 number, text the word realtor, and you'll get notifications, and you'll also get the replay links. I'm going to go to Anthony Lara, and you are literally the last question, Anthony. Go for it.
Hi, Ty. Thank you. Really quick, I just want to see how seller finance or creative finance could be for the probate deals. If you can go more into depth in it.
That's such a good question. Really good question. It's actually really good because you think about, like, if the loan is in the deceased person's name, right? People aren't really worried about credit reports or insurance claims and things of that nature. So it's very viable. I think, again, you're dealing with the estate. Everybody in the estate has to be in agreement. So that's a big deal, getting everybody. Sometimes you'll have multiple people. Sometimes it's hard to get everybody on the same page, but it's absolutely viable. And in fact, think about it this way. Think about it from the most simplest form. Sub 2, an estate, a probate, all of that. Think about it this way. My grandmother passes away. The house is worth $400,000. She's got a small mortgage of $85,000. Kind of a real scenario, right? This was a real scenario. She left the house to me and, a couple of siblings. And I mean, who's to say? I could have just bought out my siblings and said, here, I'll buy you out. Here's, here's 75 grand to you, or 80, 80 to you, 80 to you. And I'll just keep it. And I'll just keep that mortgage. And I'll just keep it in place. And by the way, I was already paying the mortgage anyway, like literally anyway. So it didn't even really matter, right? I already had it. I already had everything, and I wasn't not on the insurance or any of that. But, but point being is I was already paying the mortgage. So yes, a probate could actually be a perfect scenario for a sub 2. It could be a perfect scenario for an installment sale or for the seller finance. So spot on. Yeah, very good.
Okay. I have a property in Artesia, California, and there's about 11 owners on that property. So that's kind of where I'm at. And we've been at it for about 4 months already. We still haven't even opened probate yet. They're just not on the same page. None
Where's
of
the
owners.
property?
In Artesia. It's
Where's
by
that?
Norwalk. By Norwalk.
Okay. It's in LA County?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It should be in LA County.
Okay. And then
so I can't get everybody on the same page, and I'm trying to see if if the subject 2 is better for them, or
how much is owed?
Nothing. It's free and clear.
How many heirs?
About 11. Yeah, they're about 11, and half of them have passed away. So since it's a tenancy in common, it goes to their heirs. So we have to track their heirs as well. It's just a big mess. It's a really complicated case, and I'm just trying to see if there's another option out for them, as far as just selling or going into probate.
I mean, if you could get the heirs on board, I mean, that's the hardest thing though. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the, I mean,
If they own it free and clear, right? So
Yeah, they
it's
own it
not
free and clear.
just seller finance, not sub two. There's no
Right.
mortgage.
of course. Yeah, that's very obvious. But I'm saying now we're talking about 11 beneficial. We're talking about, okay, so let's just say, is your payment going to be $1,100 a month and you send $100 check to all 11 people? I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I'd be willing to do that if the deal was incredible. If you're getting an incredible deal, that's great. But I'm going to say also, there's a deal there. There's a deal there. I don't know if a long-term, maybe it works as a long-term buy and hold. And yeah, you're making, you know, or the payment's $2,200 and you're making $11,200 a month ACHs, you know,
Right.
or whatever, you know, I definitely wouldn't be writing checks. I'd be using ACH. You know, everybody's got to get a ACH or it has to be where maybe like one person is in charge and they do the distribution of funds and they do like quarterly, maybe instead of monthly payments, it's a quarterly payment and they do quarterly distributions, or you do quarterly distribute. That'll make some of the bookkeeping easier.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, there's ways around it, but you got to get all 11 people to agree, which I'm going to say, is that realistic? You may say yes, you may say no, but also one of the things I'm going to say, and I said this earlier, just be careful about getting into complicated deals. Now, there could still be a deal there, but buy and hold,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, but I would say just don't bang. How long you been working on this?
About 4 months or so already.
Yeah. So you notice you've gotten 4 months, and have you gotten anywhere? Do you have it under contract?
I have it under contract. I have it with the surviving heir. But then when I looked at title, I noticed that there were 11 other heirs on there. And, you know, going one by one to see if everybody will give up their share, you know, to make it a little bit easier. It's just hard to track them down without paying for a lawyer already for them to do the work, you know?
See, you're already hitting that level of, you know, of resistance. Now, how much does the person you're dealing with, are they living in the property?
No, nobody's living in the property. If anything, it's already abandoned, and the house is beat up, but it's fixable. It's very fixable. It has a lot of potential.
Are the property, I bet so two things for sure. I bet the property taxes are delinquent. So those are the houses that show up on property tax lien sales, are these deals right here. You know, when you say, like, you see a property tax lien, it's like they owe $20,000 or $30,000 in property taxes, but the house is worth $400,000 or $500,000 fixed up. And you're like, no, there's no way that doesn't exist. It exists. It's that deal that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Also, I bet there's no fire insurance.
No, there's no type of insurance at all.
Yeah. So
What stage of probate is it in? Has it already gone all the way through?
We haven't even entered. None of them want to put up the money to open it.
So basically, to get the letters and orders to even be able to list it or sell it or do anything with it, you'd have to go through the probate process. So there's really nothing you can do at all.
Yeah, at this point, at this point,
like you can't even sign a contract with whomever you're speaking to,
it's
because
invalid.
they haven't technically been authorized, and they're not guardians of the estate. You know,
It's an invalid deal. It's an invalid contract. They're not. Yeah, I mean, technically it is. But if they're on board with you and they want your help, then you can help them. There is a couple of things that you can do here. One is you could help them to petition, get that all set up, petition. They'll send out notices. They'll probably require some funds to skip trace and find the 11 heirs, you know, so that they'll have to get a notice of proposed action, something along those lines. If you email me all the deal points, I'm happy to work with you on this. There's a deal there, though, for sure. And there's even a creative deal there. I've had deals where even potentially you could buy out the individual, that one person's equitable interest, and maybe subject to the other the people, but still, you still need to get this into an attorney and get a petition going for the probate court. And or I need to look at title to see exactly what's going on with title. But if you email me, ty@tylg.com, I'm happy to look at it and we can figure out. But this is that's, by the way, this could be a really great deal. This could be one of the biggest frustrations and a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, definite.
And that's
Hey,
why I'm
Ty.
saying that this does have a lot of potential, but you really won't know. And so what I'd say is email it to me. I don't want anything, but let me look under the hood. I'll give you a couple of ideas. Let me look at title. Let me see how title's held. Let's just see, kind of look at it. Let me see kind of what my thoughts are in terms of maybe helping you to get an attorney to, excuse me, to help out, to look at it.
Mhm.
But there's an opportunity here. But one of the things you just don't want to chase, you don't want to chase deals that aren't going to come together, or deals that become a career deal, meaning you spend 6-9 months on it. Is the juice really worth the squeeze? If it's a really great deal, it could be. So
Yeah, the person that I'm trying to get into contract with, well, she's already purchasing a property here in Central Valley in Porterville. It's
Okay.
just her sister is the one that has interest in that property. So that's where I'm trying to help out.
100%. Just email me, ty@tylg.com. Make sure that, and I'll take a look at it. I don't want anything. However, if I think I can help you, maybe I'll say, hey, maybe we JV on it, squat up on it. But even I'll just give you the right information. If you can get it done on your own, like whatever works for you, but I'll definitely help you. It's not something, it's a little bit more brain surgery than I can do, especially now that we're basically, this call's turning into a 2-hour call. So
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
email
Appreciate it.
me for sure. Thank you.
Hey, Ty, can I just give some advice to Anthony really quick? I had a situation like this,
Sure.
and the question that he needs to ask all these surviving beneficiaries is, do they need the money up front? If they need the money up front, he's wasting his time with seller finance, because like how you said, what you're going to do, you're going to send 11 checks to 11 different people. And
Yep.
I wasted 6 months of trying to go after a deal like this. And it's just, if they want the money up front and they're living paycheck to paycheck, it's pointless. Just
Right.
sell the deal. Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And it can become a circus trying to, is the juice worth the squeeze? Now, let's just say there's a big piece of equity, a big upside. You have this big, okay, maybe it is worth it. Or even, I've advanced fees. I've advanced funds to people. I've done that where I've advanced money to the family to do the petition, or had an attorney do it on, he'll get paid at the end, all of that stuff. So I've done that with probate where I put up the money up front. I've also had where the attorney will get paid at the back end. I've also advanced and loaned the family money, but I knew for sure that it was a deal and I was going to get paid. I wasn't going into it hoping that I was going to get something figured out and taking on a bunch of unnecessary risk, or even worse is wasting a bunch of my time chasing people, right? Chasing people that, that just had no ability. So folks, next call, if you want to be on next call, simply text the word realtor to the 949 number in the chat. I'll let you grab that because that's how the notification's going out next week. I want to thank everybody for being here. The replay hopefully will be out in the next several days. Thank you guys all so much. Appreciate you very much. Take care.